Welcome to the MotUS Edge, where we celebrate business, primarily youth sports facility management, leadership, and motivation. Co-hosted by Stacy Rowe, Cole Stott, Kevin Brubaker, and Casey Jones. We are here to fill your cup with knowledge, laughter, affirmations, and comfort knowing that you're not alone. You can and will succeed with the MotUS Edge.
What's up, everybody? We are back with another episode of the MotUS Edge, and today it is a special treat. Once again, it is Stacy and Kevin. Yes, for those of you that aren't watching on YouTube, he held his hands up like a little schoolgirl underneath of his chin with a big smile. Oh my goodness, too funny. Kevin says that I'm his favorite. I don't know. What do you guys think? Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite podcast with Stacy? Casey, Kevin, Cole? I don't know. Maybe we should take a poll. What do you think?
I'm sure it's not Casey, so it's either me or Cole. So it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, if you want to put his name on there, I don't think he'll get any votes. But I mean, Heather might vote for him. Actually, Heather would probably vote for me.
The Stacy and Casey show kind of sounds pretty fabulous, though. I'm just cool. Saying. Yeah. You know, it's not as easy on the lips. Stacy and Kevin. Stacy and Cole.
Casey and I could do a pod. Well, no, we would know what to do if it was just the three of us. I don't know why I even said that. That's the dumbest thing
We'd have to get the producer to come back on and help you guys again.
That's why we have you. You're the producer. So, yeah. We could do probably a 4-minute podcast if you need something done. Me, Cole.
I think at this point you guys could handle it. I really do. I think one of you could step up to the plate and handle it for sure.
I think we'd rather just do it with
Oh my
you.
Goodness. So it is competition time, and many of our friends, many of us are we've either just begun competition season or we are just getting started in our competition season. And it is a very busy, hustling and bustling, jittery time. So that's what we're going to talk about today, Kevin, is helping our gym owner friends, our coach friends, our parent friends, all of our listener friends to just be better equipped for the competition season that is embarking upon us.
Love it. I love competition season. So.
What wisdom and knowledge do you have to impart, Kevin?
Boy, I was expecting that question. So I think that no matter what, you're going to compete. No matter what, everything is not going to go perfect. No matter what, the journey and the process is way better than the outcome, good or bad. And so focusing on the kids and the highs and lows, and hopefully the highs outweigh the lows. And so I think if you always are result driven, always winning focus, always trying to make everyone 100% happy, you're just going to drive yourself crazy. But I mean, competitions are the fun part of what we work for the season. And it's the stuff to be enjoyed the most. And so,
I completely agree, and so helping your coaches and your parents and your athletes kind of get their expectations set for the beginning of the season, and I don't want to, Kevin and I can't dictate what that is. It's different for each program. So you need to decide, what is the expectation? What is it that you guys want to accomplish? What do you want to achieve? Those are the goals. For some teams, it might be, hey, mom and dad and athlete and coach, like this is a rebuilding year. This team is going to struggle. But the intent and the purpose of this season is XYZ, and you're sharing and you're communicating that. So we are going into this first, showcase, or that, maybe going into the showcase is that everybody successfully hit, that everybody on the team successfully does all of their skills that are choreographed in the routine. That is our goal for this first, for our showcase. And then at our first event, maybe it's, we want to score a certain amount on the score sheet, or we want to, maybe it's just let's get some good positive feedback and get a score so that we can see where we're going from here. Maybe that's the expectation. Maybe you have a team that is just, stacked to the nines. They had their growing year or 2 or 3. And you are ready to go and attack. And your goal is we are taking everybody down, right? We are going to score a 99 out of the gate and we are going to win it all. And that's our season. And I mean, that's a little crazy, but that could be the goal. Whatever the point that I'm trying to make is, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, communicate that. It could be for little babies, it could be just, getting them comfortable with going on stage.
Right.
That could be the goal, whatever it is, pick a goal, and little milestones along the way, and communicate that effectively to everyone involved in the process. Mic drop. That's my best advice on competition season. It's a roller coaster ride. Buckle in.
Yes, I agree. So, yeah, I love the fact that it doesn't have to be the same for everybody, and not even every gym is the same. Not even every team within your gym is the same, and that's okay. So, but I do think the communication piece of what athletes are expecting from their coaches, what coaches are sharing with their parents, what comes from management. And so we always say at Charlotte All-Stars, we're looking for not just the win-win, we want the 4 wins in literally everything that we do. We want management and ownership to be happy. We want coaches to be happy with them. We want parents to be happy with what they're coaching. And most importantly, we want the kids to be happy. And if any part of that is a red flag, then that's something we need to work on and fix. And so we don't have to be everything to everybody. And we don't have to be, if everyone doesn't like our gym, we hope they do. That's our goal. But the reality is it's not always going to be that way. But we want the 4 wins, especially during competition season. And we want those things to happen, hopefully every event we go to.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And I think, communication is it's the most important thing, really. Like I said, just communicating, you can have a goal and a plan and a focus, and you are not communicating that with your athletes, then you're not on the same page. Then there's a breakdown. Maybe the coaches are communicating that with the athletes, but nobody's communicating it with the parents or communicating it with the gym owner. That's a breakdown. Right. Maybe the gym owner has a plan and they've not communicated it with anybody. You get the point. You got to communicate with all facets. And I think that's the biggest thing, setting the expectations up correctly, again, that align with your goal and your mission for that season. And every year is different. And there are going to be, those years. And I think too, that it's important. Let me just say this as well. Every program has new members, right? And so it would be wise to offer, what'd you say? Hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully. And so it would be wise to do like a new, like a Cheer 101 type of thing that you are educating. And it could be for any parent, but it's obviously geared towards the new parents. Scoring in cheerleading is not easy. Obviously, as we know, many of our coaches struggle, I feel like, to keep up with it and make sure that they know all of the things that they need to know. So the parents certainly don't know. They think they know, probably, but they don't know. And so, doing something like that in the summertime to kind of educate the parents, I think is important too. How to, what the judges are looking for, why the kids are doing certain things in their routine, in order to hit the score sheet. But then that's also an opportunity to, tell the parents what your expectations are of them at a competition, how they should behave. I'll use my son plays soccer. I'll use that as an example.
Okay.
I mean, my goodness gracious, you raise your voice even just a tiny little bit on the sideline, and there is a message in the team Snap. That's what we use. Team Snap app. That's what there is a message afterwards about reminding the parents that they're not coaching from the sidelines, and the referees are there to, they're doing the best job that they can. And we can't be criticizing the referees, and don't coach the players from the sideline. The coaches need to coach the players, and blah, 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 and all the things. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, there are times where I'm like, thank you, that was needed. And there are times where I'm like, okay, really? Like, I mean, it's a sporting event, like, especially at a soccer game, like that would be like telling cheer parents not to cheer. Right. Like, of course they're going to cheer. You know what I mean? Like when the kids hit the pyramid, like everybody's going to cheer. And so, sometimes but that's the club letting us know as parents what the expectation is. And it's not just at the beginning of the season. So I think that that's okay. I think it's okay for you to do a competition wrap up. I think that would be a great suggestion. A lot of gyms, I feel like, are very much focused on communicating on the front end. And this is what you need to know. This is all the information you need to have. These are your times, bada, bada, bada. This is what we're expecting going into this competition. But then afterwards, there's no wrap up. Like, I think it would be great to send a wrap up of not just where everybody placed, but the small wins.
Right.
You know what? So we had 20 kids throw new skills for the first time on stage. Like, that's amazing. We had a team of brand new athletes that no one's competed before successfully take the stage and hit their routine. We had 5 teams out of 7 completely, hit a flawless routine with 0 deductions, whatever,
Right.
I think a wrap up at the end, after competitions would be great to share with the parents and keep that communication going. And by the way, parents, thank you so much for having all of your kids to their meeting times on time. Or, we had some stragglers. A reminder, it's really important to have your kids to the meeting time on time. Whatever, you address the positive and the negative, just like the soccer coaches do with us. They tell us, like the boys did, and they're honest too. They'll, and I have to appreciate it. Sometimes they're like, the boys, they were not full of life and energy today on the field. We were dragging a little bit, and it was obvious in the first half, but we really picked it up in the second half. And, we won the second half, we lost the first half, or whatever the case may be. So I think a wrap up, a post game, communication would be a good idea. I don't know.
Now, one of the things that we do at Charlotte All Stars is we do either a weekly email or bi-monthly email, but during competition season, they become more frequent. And so the week of a competition, they're giving pros and cons of practice. They're giving shout outs to athletes on the team. They're giving information for the weekend, and the weekend or the week after the competition, they're explaining things that went well in the routine, the positive comments from judges, or they're giving information. So I love the fact that our staff, when they do their emails to their teams, they're giving information beforehand and they're giving information afterwards. It just helps, again, gain communication with the athletes and parents.
That's tremendous.
I would say too, one of the things is if you do not have a competitive agreement of some kind with your athlete and your parents, I would encourage you to do something like that. You just never know when, the more you communicate of what the pros and cons and what you may or may not do at a competition, you will save yourself some headache to get that, some type of contract done. We do it at the beginning of our season. It encompasses the whole competition season, but there are certain things when you're at events or at competitions that parents should be aware of. Whether they're new or whether they're old, on following rules and guidelines. So if you don't have that kind of contract or that information sheet with your parents and your families, I would jump on that as soon as possible to make your life easier in the long run.
I agree. Well, I will say, chin up, good luck. Enjoy it. This is what you've worked for, right? This is what everybody's practiced for, and it is not too late to correct. This is just the beginning of the season. You're not going to get it perfectly, right out of the first event. I actually always feel like those were my best seasons when I didn't get it right first out of the gate, because it kept me working, it kept me analyzing, it kept me pushing. And that tended to be when I had the most success by the end of the season. So go forth and conquer and enjoy it. This is what we love to do, right? So just have a great time. It's your season is beginning.
Agree.
And for the moms and the dads out there, just soak up the moments of your kid, of your able-bodied athlete on the stage, doing what they love to do. And, when they have adversity throughout the season because their stunt is the one that fell, unfortunately, or their tumbling pass is the one that crashed, it's going to happen. That is a great opportunity to learn and grow and teach your child, they will survive, and tomorrow will come, the sun will rise, and they are going to get back on that stage. They're going to do that skill again, and they're going to land it successfully or build that stunt successfully or whatever. And it's all part of the lessons that we learn in life. And just enjoy it. Just enjoy the moment, watch their smile and watch them thrive, and use all the opportunities for great, moments of joy and learning and teaching and growth.
I will say, because you brought up moms and dads, I will advise you, moms and dads, the number one thing you can say to your kids is, I love watching you cheer. Not helping them with stunting or tumbling, not correcting them on what they did wrong. Let the coaches do that. Trust that process. But the best thing you can tell your kids is, I love watching you cheer. You're great at cheer. I enjoy seeing you have fun on the floor. That's the best thing a kid can hear from their parents.
100%. That's not always easy to do, right? Because you want to help them. But somebody said that to me years ago, and I have really tried to implement that with my own kids. Especially, just since we're talking about soccer, my son will get in the car and my husband wants to go right into talking about the game. And I'm just like, you know what, buddy? I really enjoyed watching you play. And then my husband and I will talk about the game later when, he's not around.
Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. It was tough for me because I coached both my kids, but when they were younger, I did not coach them on younger teams. I don't do elementary or middle school. That I would break out in hives if I had to coach that age. But I did. I loved watching them cheer. They had good days, bad days like everyone. And then coaching them on our world's team on teal for years. I did love watching them cheer. So I would correct them and then let Rob do the actual coaching part of them. So I could just continue to tell them, I love watching you cheer and I'm so glad I get to coach you. So, there was a balancing act with that. But again, parents, let the coaches coach and let the parents enjoy the process and love them doing what they love.
I agree. Well, speaking of competition, Kevin, why don't you tell us a little bit about the CX Brands?
Yes. So CX Brands is Cheer Expo, Cheer X, Excite, and Excel Championships. We have 17 events this year nationwide. We start our season in December in Kansas City on December 6th and 7th, and in Charlotte on December 13th and 14th. We have new cities this year in Dallas and Houston and New Orleans and Hartford, Connecticut, Philadelphia, Pigeon Forge. Myrtle Beach is our end of season event in April. That's April 17th, 18th, 19th weekend. And then we have our Prime Alliance grand finale in Fort Lauderdale, Florida in May, on May 8th, 9th, and 10th. And so all of our competitions are awesome. They're 2-day national events. I run most of them. I really love running events. And so we'd love to have you come check out the CX Brands. And so our website is thecxbrands.com. So call me or text me or email me if you want information about any of our competitions nationwide.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Love it. So, moving on, Kevin, I think you have something else to share. Yeah.
I have a dad joke. It's a good one. What do you call monkeys with a shared Amazon account?
I really don't even have a good guess.
Primates.
Oh my God.
Yeah, be sure to send us your favorite dad jokes so we can share them on the show and we'll give you a shout out. And so you can email at stacy@joinmotus.com. That's normal Stacy, STACY @joinmotus.com. Or you can send us a DM or on social media at Join Motus. So good stuff.
Cool. So we got a few questions from some listeners. Kevin,
Okay.
You want me to go first? I'll
Yeah.
read you the first question.
Let's do it.
All right. So this is, hey, MotUS Edge. This is Alyssa from Florida. What's the best way to mentally prepare our cheerleaders and coaches to ensure everyone feels confident and ready going into our first competition of the season?
Great question, Alyssa. Thank you for listening. I would say the biggest and number one most important thing is, are you hitting the skills that you're competing? And just the bottom line is, if you're not hitting, it makes it way harder to feel confident going into a performance. And so the reality is that the better confidence you are is based on the skills you're hitting in the gym. If you're hitting routines in the gym consistently, then you will be hitting routines competition-wise. It just makes your life easier to put those two things together. And so the reality is your confidence comes from skills that you've done over and over and over again in routines that you're hitting in your gym with just your coaches. Competition brings a whole nother, level of anxiety because you're at a different venue. You're actually competing. You woke up early, you traveled, you did, hair, makeup, all the things. And so you're already adding that to it. So if you add doing routines of skills you're not hitting consistently, that makes it really tough. I mean, don't let it be a crapshoot and hoping you're going to hit at a competition. Know that they're hitting. And so if you need to scale some things back, especially early in the season, it is way better to hit and not have the level of difficulty than have the level of difficulty and falling on the floor and not having a great performance.
I agree. I mean, you don't really stand a chance in this day and age if you don't hit your routine.
That's right.
For the most part. Yeah. Yeah, I really, the score sheet is so rubric these days, and you have to set your teams up for success, and in order to do that, you have to hit your routine. So you nailed it, Kevin. I agree 100%.
Cool. All right, I have a question for you, Stacy. It's from Malik from California. How do you balance enthusiasm and high expectations among athletes and parents without causing burnout or overwhelming pressure early in the cheer season? That's a good question.
That is a really good question. And I actually feel like the burnout and the pressure, I feel like comes more towards the end of the season most of the time. But I also feel like the summer and kind of the fall, like late summer and early fall, I think that that can also get a little frustrating and challenging with the teams because they haven't competed yet, especially for newer athletes that they're just not used to they don't know kind of what they've gotten themselves into, and new parents, why do I have to have all these practices? Why are we doing this choreography? Why are we, I don't understand, because they genuinely don't understand. So I think that a couple different things. I think, as I've said a million times already on just this podcast, but then all of our podcasts, communication, communicating why you're doing what you're doing so that people can understand is important. So the more that you communicate, I think the better, to some degree, and with your athletes too, like explaining to them, what's the plan for the next month, next 2 months, next 3 months, why we're doing what we're doing to get where we are. But I also think that, you talk about balancing enthusiasm with high expectations. I think that it is extremely important at the highest levels. A lot of times people think, play the games, do the fun things with the tinies, keep it fun. Right. And I agree with that. But I actually also agree that at the highest levels, it's extremely important to have that team bonding, that camaraderie. Those athletes need to trust each other, completely. Sure. And they need to know that their teammate is going to be there and they're going to have their back and they're going to show up. And that, and in order to build that type of team camaraderie, you have to have team bonding, and that could be in a lot of different ways. That could be just fun activities at the gym. It could be fun games in practice. It could be something outside of practice, a pool party, whatever. I think that anytime you have the opportunity to take your team to a team bonding, like a true team bonding type of exercise. I remember one time taking my teams to a camp. It was a Flip Fest camp actually. And they had like a ropes course. They have the tall 30-foot ropes course, but that's where the kids go through individually. But then they also had these different activities in the woods. So I'll just use one as an example, because honestly, it's the one I can remember. There were 4 or 5, but this is the one I remember. It was a big, gigantic, round wooden circle. That wobbled. So it was centered on a little fulcrum in the middle, and the circle would teeter totter and kind of lay on its side. And the name of the game basically was to get on to the circle and balance it out. So you had to get the whole team on the circle and keep it level. So you would start with one person, and then you'd add a person, and then you'd add the next person and the next person, and so on and so forth. And then if they, cool. And so I think as many times as you have the opportunity to do things like that, especially at the higher level, it's extremely important. And a lot of times, I've heard this before, you're wasting time at practice. They're doing nothing but playing games. and I'm like, okay, you clearly have not led a group of 20 plus individuals, because if you had, you would understand the value of these quote unquote games that we're playing. And sometimes it does get too serious, and they are still kids. Even if they are going to the world championships and competing at the highest level, they are still children at the end of the day, and they still need to have fun. They are not professional athletes. So it is also okay to take 5 minutes and just have fun at practice, doing nothing at all, but having fun. Not every practice, not all the time, but it's important, because you know what? I think that's something that's important to teach kids too as adults, like we need that. We need to know that it's okay. Life is stressful, right?
Yeah.
As we get older, raising kids, working, all the things. And it's okay to take 5 minutes to just have some fun. It's okay. So I don't know, Malik, if that answers your question. I got super passionate about it, but I hope that answered your question.
Wait, I have to add to it because I can talk about team bonding forever. It's one of my favorite subjects
it's
ever.
So
I've taught that class forever.
So important.
So I always gave the example of, do you know who the greatest coach and the best person at team bonding ever was? Jesus. I mean, he took 12 guys and they went camping. They did a lot of hiking. They did a lot of capture the flag. They did a lot of fishing. They did a lot of, literally sandal making and basket weaving. I mean, they talk about the ultimate team, and these 12 guys literally changed the entire world. So he's the ultimate coach, in my opinion. And so I'll give one example because this is one of the best ones ever. So I coached a girl named Ashley Flair years ago. Her dad was Ric Flair, famous wrestler. And she came to practice one time and said, hey, would we want to do an activity as a team outside of the gym? I've said, of course. We all went to Monday Night Raw in Charlotte, North Carolina, me taking 20 teenagers to go see wrestling in Charlotte. This is literally 20 years ago, to see Monday Night Raw in Charlotte. It was the best team bonding event ever in our history of going to take teenage girls to go see wrestling, WWE in Charlotte many years ago.
That is fantastic.
Cool. Yeah,
that is fantastic. So. And, I think that those are the things that are the important lessons in life too. It's like learning to appreciate. You've got, let's just use 20, obviously we know there could be any number of kids on a team these days up to a certain point, but let's just go with 20, learning how to take 20 children and teach them how to appreciate each other and the job that they do on a team is a more valuable skill in life that you can teach those individuals than their double full, than their double up to heel stretch and they're, that they're going to hit in a routine like that. That is such an important thing. And so I think that, those aspects of it are invaluable and really kind of should be at the forefront of what we do.
And it takes all 20. It takes the kid that's the best athlete, that's your MVP, down to the kid who's only holding the prep and barely has a back tuck, whatever it is. It takes all 20 of them, and it's important. If you lose one of them, you got to replace them, or you got to fix things, or you got to change things. And we all know that's a pain in the butt. So, making everyone feel valued is a huge part of the team and competitive process as well.
100%. And it's, unique. Cheerleading is unique in the fact that it takes all 20 members. You can't there is no bench, and you can't replace, you can't just plug and play in people. People don't even realize this, but it's like, okay, so cool. You find a replacement. Awesome. But you know how many months we've spent working on these transitions in the exact spot that every one of those 20 people is supposed to walk around the floor, and just throwing in one person that's different just messes all of that up. And, it takes time and a minute. So I think it's extremely important. I think you communicate the importance of it. And I think that you do it, you take time to do it, throughout the season, especially at the beginning of the season, but also throughout the season. And I think, and when your kids are really struggling and having a hard time hitting or whatever, sometimes it's best to be like, let's just take 5 minutes and have fun. We're going to do the Macarena for 5 minutes and we're going to shake it off and we're going to get back to it,
Hey, Macarena.
Right. I don't know that's probably not fun, but but
it's not when I do it, I can tell you that. So,
oh my goodness, too funny. All right, so let's unpack our Simon Sinek quote of today, Kevin. The quote is, "We can define what we do, but what we do must never define us."
Oh, I like that because I love cheer, and I am been involved in cheer my whole adult life, from a coach and a gym owner and event producer and judge and choreographer and literally all the things. I've done all that parts of cheer, but I don't feel like cheer defines me. I know as a Christian man with morals and values, and hopefully an awesome dad to my girls and great husband to my wife and good son to my parents, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the things from who I am in my church and how I am as a leader in my community, and what I am to my family is way more important to me than this awesome career that I have in cheer, but it does not define who I am. So I love that quote.
I agree. I think, I remember oftentimes teaching this lesson to my athletes because I feel like in the gym, in life in general, a lot of times too, but just talking about it from a cheer and dance perspective, if you're on the best team in the facility, I'm sure no one does this, but sometimes, there could be athletes or parents on the team that think they're better than or treat others inside of the facility less than because they're on this higher level team. And I remember, every year having to have the conversation, with the kids and the parents that the double full is a skill that you worked hard for. You had to work really hard to get that skill, and you should be proud of that. But that is a skill. It is a physical skill that you do. It has zero to do with who you are as a person. And so I want you to think about who you are as a person and who you want to be as a person. Because I'm talking to an athlete, right? They're who do you want to be? And then mom and dad, the double full is a skill that they have. It's not who they are as a person. So who do you want to encourage them to be as a person? And I remember having that conversation with my cheerleaders and my dancers all the time, not all the time, but at least once a year, because I think it's just normal, especially for kids, it's part of life, right? It's part of growing. So I think that is so important, what we do. And I think what we do can define us. What I mean by that is, what we do as a person, our actions as a person can define who we are. But what we do for our job, our activity that we participate in does not define who we are. And we shouldn't let it define who we are because it
totally
doesn't.
Agree.
Yeah.
We used to do an activity on when I coached years ago, and we've done it with our staff before, is list like all the things that you think are important as an athlete, and being on time and being a hard worker and being a motivator and being an encourager and being a good listener, and 9 out of the 10 things had nothing to do with their athletic ability. It was just things that made a good teammate. And the same thing as gym owners, and what we're looking for in staff is, you want the person that wants to show up early, that wants to work hard, that wants to be able to go the extra mile, to be able to do those things. And a lot of those things are based on who you are as a person and what your work ethic and what your mantra is for who you are in life. And, those are hugely important things. It doesn't have to necessarily certainly be one thing based on what your skill level is.
I agree. And appreciating the journey, that people take. So like a lot of times I think, again, talking from a kid's perspective, kids like, I have a double full, I have a crazy tumbling pass. Double full's not even really that crazy anymore, but I have whatever, 82 flips into my double full. I'm amazing. And again, not to take away from that, because that is amazing. And you've obviously worked really hard to achieve that. However, I have coached athletes who have worked and trained for 5 years, literally every day, worked their buns off just to achieve the accomplishment of a back handspring. And that child's back handspring was equivalent, if not harder to achieve than this child's 11-2 flips into a double full.
Right.
And so teaching them, to notice those things as well. It's not the end result, acknowledge the journey along the way. It's the drive and the motivation and the willingness to not give up, or the desire to not give up or keep pushing, that this person has over here that does define them, not the skill, but the path that they took to get there. That's what defines them. And then the same for the kid with the double, all that work, like obviously those are really hard things to do. And yes, are there people that kind of, maybe that comes easy to them? Sure. But the majority of people have to still work really hard to achieve those skills. And so it's the work and the effort and the process along the way. That's the skill. Yeah. That's what defines you, not the thing at the end. And teaching the kids to recognize that. I do have one specific athlete that I was still to this day, we are friends. We talk. She's an adult, married, wonderful human. And I admired her. She was going to be a cheerleader, and she was going to learn how to do a back handspring, and it didn't matter. I mean, she did not quit for years, and she did eventually get that skill, and she got so much better at everything else along the way. that she ended up being a phenomenal athlete and, competing on really highly successful teams, even without her tumbling. But she just was remarkable in her
What's her name?
Drive.
Give her a shout out. Who is it?
Megan Parker, Megan Dale now. Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness. I have a similar story about a Megan Rao, but I'll tell it another time. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Good stuff.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening today. Give us a follow on YouTube at the MotUS Edge, and follow us on social media on Instagram and Facebook and X at Join MotUS. Wherever you listen to your podcast, give us a shout out and a follow. And if you like what we're doing and you want to hear more, let us know and leave us a review. And if you're a gym owner, join the movement and sign up for MotUS today. Thank you all so much for listening. We enjoy having you listen to our podcast. We enjoy doing our podcast.
For sure.
And we are excited for you to have the MotUS Edge. Thank y'all. Have a wonderful week.
Good luck this season. God bless you.
Thank you for listening to the MotUS Edge. We hope you had a blast. Join us next week for more on business, leadership, and motivation. Subscribe and follow the show where you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter at joinmotus.com. The MotUS Edge podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.